Hey, what's up? I like these Tomorrow Publishing magazines. Back issue, Comic Creator, and Alter Ego. Back issue is, I guess, more the other half of since the war, always the war. Alter Ego seems to be a lot of stuff before, and including this time period. Comic creators, huge interviews with creators. It reminds me of the Comics Journal back in the day. And Roy Thomas, I think, is the main editor of all these issues. I've seen some familiar names, creators and whatnot, and even some of the people from Amazing Heroes writing for this. But at this point, since I barely buy any new comics, I tend to like to, I pick and choose which back issues of these because they're on the shelf in one of the cool comic stores I go uh, to pick. And I saw this. This is from a couple of years ago, sitting there, the Rock and Roll Comics issue. Okay? Lots of fun. Oh, disclaimer, yes, it's nostalgia, right? It's an older form of decadence. A lot of it helped to lead to what you have now. But that aside, my nuanced takes. It's just a lot of fun. It's fun when they have the theme issues here, the rock and roll, like where comics intersected with rock and roll. Okay, going back to, a lot of the rock music, the pop music. I mean, some of this was interesting. Some of this stuff, I always find out something new in this. Okay, and of course, I've told you, I'm a big Alice Cooper fan. And yes, I am a big, I would say 70s, an early 80s Kiss fan. So this thing was fit. I'm not so much a fan of Danny Partridge, but, and also, on the cover here, anyway, let's get in there. Yeah, Flash Gordon, man. That's an awesome movie. Dude, they have people badmouth this film for the longest time. And they interviewed the actor who's still, keeping in good shape. He was an athlete, of course. And it was a good interview. It was interesting, him talking about, Dino De Laurentiis, well, you can imagine working for him, what it would have been like, and of course, you see, look at this. Yeah, I like the fact that he was a football player, American football player, just fighting these aliens, and you had, of course, the women were so beautiful, man. But of course, the rock connection is the soundtrack was by Queen, right? Yeah, great stuff. Something that you realize is much better, and I don't mean it like in a it's a campy film, but I don't mean in a campy, ironic way. It's a great film. It's a lot of fun. The practical effects look great. The color scheme, it's literally like a comic book as a film. And of course, the music, Queen is like one of those amazing bands, that the great bands that where every song sounds different, but regardless, and of course, the ubiquitous comic adaptation. And I like how they always, whenever they have the art in these magazines, they always will say who did it. Al Williams, I remember him. I think I remember him. But nice little interview, right? And and I don't know what that is. Anything associated with that Family Guy creator, I don't. To me, it's like I see through it. Right? You see through it, like it's just not there. So, and a little quick thing, and I was gonna do another vid on it, but the monkeys, dude. Okay, the monkeys was brilliant. The story of the monkeys behind the scenes is as interesting. Where you have a prefab band of both musicians and actors who had some musical talent, and what they did, and how the sort of the show, everything. Like there was so many groundbreaking things with it, but the idea that these guys were supposed to be hired guns, and they ended up getting their freedom to make actual music was interesting. And of course, the guys just going over, you see the guests, the interesting things, at the same time, Batman is on, so you have a lot of the same actors, and they're hilarious. The Monkeys is friggin', I don't know, there's not enough I can say about the Monkeys, okay? And Mickey Dolenz is the only one left alive. Rest in peace to the rest of them. So, and of course, it's cool here, with that figure hat, Mike Nesmith, reading the comics. I don't know. I just thought that was cool. The connection with the monkeys. Now, in the 70s, talking about Mark Bolin. This is interesting how Mark Bolin, right, T-Rex. Yeah, it's really a lot. I mean, of course, Bang a Gong, we hear it on the classic rock radio, but the glam stuff is huge, much huger in the UK. And it was interesting how he was a multi-talented guy. He did an interview with Stan Lee. Right? Stan Lee, Stan the man. So I still like, hey, Stan Lee was. I like the guy. The guy's an interesting guy here. And I thought this was funny. Apparently, they had the idea of David Bowie's wife being the black one. Yeah, Angie Bowie. I remember her from the 80s. Anyway, but it was kind of cool. They had an interview with Mark Bolin interviewing Stan Lee. Thought it was interesting. And the guy, obviously, this guy was into the comics. He read the comics. So, and apparently, a young editor at the time was the guy from the Pet Shop Boys. Thought that was interesting. I didn't know any of that. Yeah, Marvel UK was big. I actually remember seeing a couple of them in Forbidden Planet in Manhattan. They would actually have the Marvel UK comics, I guess, brought over. It was interesting. But that was fascinating to see where this stuff intersects. Rock and comics. Yeah, you had all the Saturday morning. Remember all the cartoons from the 70s and the late 60s always had like music playing in it, right? You get Jackson 5, Jesus Christ, remember that? Fat Albert, hey, hey, hey. My man's free. Anyway, Banana Splits, it's funny. The Archies, right? The Archies, the sugar. Anyway, apparently the guy who created the Monkees after the coup that occurred, Mr. Kirshner, decided he was going to make a totally fictional band, using these animated characters from the comic that he could tell them what to do. Okay? I never liked any of the HR Puppet stuff. Do not like those. What the hell were those guys called already? Forgot. Sid and Marty Krofft. Never liked any of that stuff. And you see Gold Key, right? You see Charlton, right? The Bugaloos. Now that's Sid and Marty Krofft. I remember they had the first time I heard a black guy with a British accent, or should I say a Cockney accent. And of course, Josie and the Pussycats. I loved them. Josie and the Pussycats and the one in outer space. Those were great. The Melody, right? Val, Josie. I liked the original ones. Right? And the Cross Super Show. I remember watching this, and watching it, I was 2 or 3 years old. I remember this. I remember when Captain Cool and the Kongs were glam, and there were 5 of them, and they were very glam. Oof. And you had Bigfoot and Wild Boy, and you had these other ones. You had Dr. Shrinker. Apparently, they made Gold Key did a lot of adaptations. More on them. Chan Clan, yeah. Oh, there's no diversity representation back then. Oh, please, the Chan Clan, right? It was cool. The older brothers, they had a car that could turn into any vehicle. I thought that was really cool. And of course, they had their own music. And I don't know who the hell is Butch Cassidy. I remember this cartoon. I don't even think he was real. Anyway, so that was the rundown there. Look at what is this? Look at Rick Springfield. Early Rick Springfield with the emo haircut. They thought they were so cool back then, right? I mean, in the 2000s. And New Kids on the Block. Harvey Comics made that interesting. Yeah, well, Donnie was a great actor, though, I'll tell you. He's a good actor. A little run through. Very interesting. All right, getting towards the end. It's amazing. Look at the CIA cells. Oh, sorry. Laurel Canyon. Anyway, and you see Charlton made all these comics. The Partridge Family. Now, did I like the Partridge Family? Bonaducci was great. An interesting guy, man. How he turned out. But the Partridge Family. I guess I just remember the little kid and Ruben, and the little girl never talked because she was a little. And who was he? David Cassidy. That's what I'm saying. Butch Cassidy. Who was that? I don't know who that was. Bobby Sherman. Do I remember? I think they played Bobby Sherman's song on the old 101.9, the classic. But now we're getting into Kiss, bro. Interesting. I didn't know that. Gene Simmons, a.k.a. Chaim Witz, grew up with Marv Wolfman and Howard Chaykin, I assume in New York. And he was into comics. And this was cool. They actually, Kiss, Gene Simmons and them were always into comics. And so when they got big, they had the idea of doing a Kiss comic. Remember, this was the one where, they put their blood in the ink, right? It was a big gimmick. Whether they did or not, who knows? But I thought it was interesting. Like I said, Kiss, you could badmouth Kiss from the context of today, but that first album, and then even the stuff all into the 70s, and the early 80s, Vinnie Vincent, more on him later, but they were great, man. I don't care. Gene Simmons is actually a great bass player and a great singer, for the style, that kind of style of singing. So Stanley, not as much. Of course, the greatest singer in the group was Peter, but let's not, this is about the comics. And Steve Gerber, I didn't realize Steve Gerber had passed away. Rest in peace. This guy was probably one of the most underrated comic writers there was. Okay, and look at this. Can you imagine how much this goes for? The Kiss Army stuff. I just thought, I know they had done even more comics later, the Psycho Circus, the Archie and Kiss, right? What the hell? Look at that. Hey, whoa. Well, now I guess that would be, that's, Gene Simmons supports it, I'm sure. But Neil Adams, he passed away too, man. A lot. Tim Sale passed away. Anyway, I don't want to get into that with this vid, but, and, yeah, Kiss. Remember these comics? Remember these that, have, I remember these. Yeah, rest in peace, Eric Carr. Anyway, Hypno Hustler, the history of the Hypno Hustler. Listen, none of this later sticky stuff matters. This is awesome. Look at this. Oh, look at that. Spider-Man Night Fever. Bill Mantlo and Frank Springer. And he goes to a disco club and fights the Hypno Hustler and his backup singer, the Mercy Killer. Dude, this looks great, man. I love this. I want to see this. I want to read this, man. I really do. So, and yes, I'm a rock fan, but I told you, my first love as a kid was disco because that's what was always on the radio. Very cool, very cool. Okay, I'm even more of an Alice Cooper fan than Kiss. Okay, the original band, Alice Cooper, was brilliant. Killer is one of the best rock albums ever made. Also, their early stuff before that with Zappa producing them, some of that was really crazy music. Some of it was even bordering on the extreme music of today. Of course, and also these are the first dudes to wear women's clothes and wear their girlfriends' makeups. A lot of firsts with the band. Of course, Alice went solo, and Alice also was a big alcoholic. Anyway, this was about the comic. I remember seeing the cover for this and saying, I recognize this guy from the Muppets. Okay. Apparently, the funny thing about this article is that when they had made this, everyone agreed that this was really kind of not funny. You could say by today's standards, of course, very offensive. Okay, but I don't give a damn about that. It's bizarre. It was very bizarre with him. Of course, this is referencing when he was in a mental hospital, but more to dry out from drinking. And apparently he was locked in there, not really, but with the guy who wrote all the lyrics for Elton John. Elton John's songs are great, but he didn't write the lyrics. And they collaborated and wrote an album based on this. And this is a comic thing from the inside. I don't know, it's just I thought it was kind of funny. Very, like Another Time. Yeah, Nurse Rosetta is pretty hot. Hey, come on. So, and there's Alice. And like I say, Alice is class act, dude. Still making music now. One of the best concerts I ever saw was him. All those bands from the 70s who are now, of course, either passing away or retiring. Nobody could perform like those dudes. And like I said, it's a fun comic. Not that long though. I thought this would be a whole thing, but whatever. You're seeing most of the comic in this magazine. So rounding it out, I don't know who this was. Although, man, look how good Jim Lee's art was, bro. And I do remember this, Steel Town Rockers. I remember thinking that this looked more like an indie comic, and it was like, yeah, we're gonna make it out of Pittsburgh. So, and there's Larry Hama, your boy Zach's buddy. I didn't really read it. Remember, at this time, I'm already getting into death metal, and the music at the time, the Smithereens, the Replacements, was like, there was a lot, much more satisfying stuff with that. And look, they're still making fun of Nixon back then. And that's it, man. great work. And these are the other magazines they do. Alter Ego, Draw. They actually have real tech guys talking about the craft and their tech, right? Comic book creator, and there's a whole Jack Kirby worship thing going on, but whatever. That's Tomorrow's Publishing, back issue number 101. Lots of